What's up, guys? This is Taking the Field with Stevie Mac, episode 41 of the podcast. I'm your host, Stephen MacDonald, and today is the day of the NLL entry draft. And I know I've been teasing some news about the NLL for the past few weeks now, so without further ado, here it is. Taking the Field with Stevie Mac is bringing you, the listeners, and you, the lacrosse fans, the ultimate NLL fantasy experience this winter. The podcast will be creating an NLL fantasy league for anyone and everyone to get involved with. And depending on the amount of feedback we get, we'll create multiple leagues to accommodate for anyone that wants to be involved. And I'll explain a little more as to why in just a second, because there are going to be a couple things that we're going to tie to this fantasy experience for you guys. And the first is that the podcast will cover the NLL all season long, just like I did this past summer for the PLL Championship Series. It'll be that same idea. We'll talk all things NLL, we'll talk all things lacrosse, we'll talk really whatever you guys want to get into. We'll have guests on and different things like that as well. So there'll be full coverage on the podcast, Taking the Field with Stevie Mac. And the second thing, and probably the biggest thing, the thing that I'm most excited about with this whole NLL fantasy experience for you guys, is that the fantasy league will be tied to lacrosse charity. So how it's going to work is each team that signs up will pick a lacrosse organization locally in their area that they want to raise money for, and the idea behind it is to help grow the sport at the local level within our communities. And I've already looked into a few myself for the team that I'm going to start that I would like to raise money for here in my area of Southeast Michigan. So if you go back and look at my PLL fantasy league that I had a few months ago, we had guys from about 10 different states in that league representing. So I think that this charity idea and the kind of impact that it could have had on something like that league with guys coming from different states and different areas like that, it could have had a big impact on the lacrosse community. So that's kind of the idea, or the hope at least, for what I want this NLL fantasy idea to be all about. I want to get guys from all over to get involved with this so that we can raise a lot of money for a lot of great lacrosse organizations across the country. So Taking the Field with Stevie Mac will also be fundraising for a national lacrosse organization to help grow the game both nationally and internationally. And kind of like I mentioned with the local organization, I've already started looking into a few. I've narrowed down my list to about 2 or 3, so I'll let you guys know once I decide who I'm going to go with on that aspect. But really the whole underlying kind of idea for this whole charity thing is that I want to give back to the lacrosse community any way that I can and really help make the game more accessible to more people and really just help the overall growth of the game. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about ways to do that here over the past month or so, and now I'm starting to kind of get into putting some of those ideas into action. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about this NLL Fantasy League, and I hope you guys all are as well. And I want to get, like I said, I want to get as many people as humanly possible involved with this in any way, shape, or form. And really, I just want, let's have fun with this. That's the other thing to keep in mind, is this whole thing is for you guys so that we can just get into lacrosse and talk lacrosse and just all things lacrosse all the time and just really have fun with it and being a part of such a great and, I think, accepting community that is the lacrosse community. So then other things that I'm working on really just for the podcast as a whole is that I'm looking to continue my lacrosse coverage into different areas such as collegiately, later on in the spring. And like I said, just kind of going through the different levels of professional lacrosse, whether it be the PLL, MLL, NLL, whatever it is. And really starting to bring guests onto the show that I haven't had possibly at this point, and maybe even bringing some other people that I have had on the show in the past back for some more episodes, and really diving into some new topics around the lacrosse community as a whole that I haven't really touched on yet. So a lot of really interesting stuff going on there that I look forward to over the next few months. And then finally, I know that some of you saw my tweet from last week about wanting to become a lacrosse coach, and I'm happy to say that I had a nice long phone conversation last night with the director of the Motor City Knights Lacrosse Club here in Southeast Michigan, and I'll be heading out to their first fall practice of the season this Saturday to check it out and kind of do what I think is kind of like a trial run with them for a day. So I want to thank everyone that liked that tweet and really spread it throughout the lacrosse Twitter community. And really thank you to everyone who replied with such encouraging and loving comments and a lot of advice on how to really get started with this idea. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys that reached out to me about that. But like I said, let's get it going with this NLL fantasy idea. This is something that I've been working on for a little over a month now, I'd say, with the different planning and things like that. So I'm really excited that I finally got to make this announcement for you guys, because like I said, I've been teasing it for a few weeks now. So there it is, NLL fantasy with Taking the Field with Stevie Mac and all the different charity things involved with that. But really, that's all I got for you guys on this episode. Make sure to check out the podcast on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, literally everywhere you guys get your podcasts. We are pretty much there now. And you can even check it out on the main host site, taking-the-field.com. That's, again, my main podcast hosting site with all past episodes of the podcast. And, like, comment, and share on this post as well. Let me know what you guys think about this NLL fantasy experience. Let me know if you want to get involved with it and join one of the leagues that we'll be creating through that. And yeah, that'll do it for me, guys. I'll talk to you guys later.